Okay, so I'd like to welcome everyone to the first online faculty forum of the spring 19 semester, and hopefully all of you got off to a good start. Um, I thought today that we would spend some time talking about creating engaging video lectures. So for these, each semester we have kind of a series of things that we want to focus on, and student engagement is one of those topics that just keeps coming up over and over and over again. How can I increase student engagement? How can I get my students in my course engaging with the content more? And so today we're going to be talking about one of those methods, which is creating engaging video lectures. And I put the little quote at the bottom that students will really watch, because how many of us spend hours putting together video lectures only to find out that we go in and only about not even a quarter of our students are watching the video lectures that we put so much time and effort into building and putting into our courses. So that being said, I would like to do a quick survey online. If you could just maybe take a moment to type, if you do use video lectures, what is your average length of time for your video lectures? So we'll just take a moment for our attendees to respond in the chat box. By the way, the messages in this chat are also being recorded for those who are watching online, or this remotely or virtually. So I'm just curious how many of you, okay, so Arlie responds that she breaks them up into 2 or 3 videos, about 10 minutes each, okay? And, you know, there's a lot of debate and conversation about what the length of videos need to be. So I'll just move on to our next slide, which actually moves us into the next topic. So both of you are pretty close. Very good. So yes, the answer is to kind of keep it short into segments about 7 to 10 minutes long, because this really allows the students to kind of put themselves in a meaningful place to pause if they need to understand the content and kind of pick it back up. I find it easier too sometimes when I have some downtime and I'm at a restaurant or I'm doing, at a kid's game or something. I just put my earbuds in, and I can listen to those short segments. Even sometimes while I'm making dinner, I can do, if it's something that I can, listen to and take notes as I'm listening to it. That's always a nice thing to do. A tip for implementation in terms of longer lectures. I mean, there are times, and I'm guilty of this, where there's a lot of topics that need to be covered in one segment. So I strongly suggest to kind of break those down into topic-based discussions. And I think both of you seem to be doing that. So that's kind of the number one tip. I'm kind of doing the top 6 today. The top 6 tips, the top 6 things to consider. The other one is the talking head, avoiding the talking head syndrome. This is one of the things that just we're really trying to avoid doing. There's a place for that. It's so much more visually enticing when you can intersperse visuals, is what I'm trying to say, into your lectures. I was watching a video of this instructor online, and they were referencing, the other problem, obviously is making sure that the technology is working. So we had this instructor who did such a great job recording the lecture. The only problem is it was stuck on the first slide. So the whole presentation that he had spent, 45 minutes recording, he didn't realize that that the screen wasn't actually recording, and he was stuck. It was stuck on the same slide the whole time he's advancing. So visuals can really enhance your presentation and make them more accessible, but you want to make sure also that the technology is working. So one of the things that I do before I get started is I do a technology test run, and I can't tell you the number of times I've had instructors call in and say, oh, I just spent 30 minutes recording this lecture and I can't find it and I don't know where it's at come to find out they didn't hit the record button, or there was no audio because they didn't turn the audio on. And so it's always a good idea to have a test run of all the technology, load up that PowerPoint, load up the PDF, whatever it is that you're going to want to do, and check that technology. Do like a quick 2 or 3 minute recording, and then go back in and make sure that it's actually working and functioning the way that you intended it. Because nothing is more frustrating than doing all that work and then going back and finding out, oh, I can't hear anything, or there's a problem with the technology. So that's always a great thing to keep in mind. So Eric just joined us, which is great, because I'm sure that he can chime in on a few things too. So Eric, just to kind of catch you up, we are just basically discussing the top 6 tips for engaging students with video, and then we're going to kind of move into the technology piece of it.
All right, sounds good. Sorry.
One of the things I did mention today also, Cheryl and Arlie, is that the reason I'm bringing Eric in is so that he can talk a little bit about Zoom, which is a new lecture capture software that's going to be rolling out. Has been already activated, but it's going to be added to D12 here shortly, so you'll see that showing up. And I'll let Eric talk more about that in just a little bit. The other, and maybe Eric can talk to this too, from what I understand, Zoom allows instructors to create questions that are embedded directly into the video. I haven't seen this, and Eric, you can chime in and help me there. I know Panopto does this, but I think it's really important to have an opportunity for students to kind of comprehend the main points that you're taking in your, trying to get across in your lecture. So maybe going through a couple, 3 or, do like 5 minutes and then stop and ask a student a question. Maybe you can provide a worksheet for them to complete as they watch the lecture, or better yet, you can create questions embedded directly into the video to allow the students to kind of do some reflective thinking and some critical thinking about what it is that you're really trying to convey to them. And it gives them kind of also a break too from that. The other way too that you can build into comprehension into the lecture videos is to have a quiz or a self-assessment built around the topic that you're presenting in your lecture. One of the things that I really enjoyed both as a student and also I implemented in my own online courses is to focus on a lot of times on the muddiest point. So at the end of the unit, I would send out like a survey or quick question to students and ask them, what was it about this last module that you had the most difficulty with, or that you struggled with the most? We call this the muddiest point, and what you would like to learn more about. And I think that's a really great way to build a topic, a lecture discussion around that, and just and record that for your students and put that up in D12. So that's another great idea that I have found extraordinarily useful. Also, the same can go for if you're responding to feedback on a student. Maybe a student is not quite grasping what you're trying to say in an email. I've always found that just doing a quick recording of that and just sending it to the student, sometimes hearing it as well as reading it, sometimes that having that dual modality of comprehension kind of makes things sink in a little bit better than just reading an email. How many of us have been in that point where sometimes it's easier just to pick up the phone and make that phone call to talk to someone because you're not quite understanding what that point is. So that's another great way of reaching out to the students too, via video. And there is that option in D12 to do video feedback. So there are some time limitations, but you can do video feedback in D12 with audio, and you can also do the same using Turnitin. And the other thing to, of course, explore is the use of pre-existing videos. Obviously, there's some current concerns via copyright around this, but a lot of faculty at USD don't always use their own videos. Maybe they use TED Talks, or they go out and they find some educational videos that they want to supplement. Obviously, you have to make sure that they're, check the copyrights on that, because not everything posted up on YouTube is openly available for you to link to. And the other thing well, that I've personally run into lately in some of my course reviews is that YouTube has taken the videos down. So you've copied the course over, you used the video maybe last semester, and you go back in and find that the video has been taken down and it's not there anymore. So that's obviously one of the caveats of using YouTube, is because you don't know if that video is going to stay up the whole semester. So obviously first preference is, to record your own, but there's a great pool of resources out there, and there's a lot of, open resources that you can access to supplement what you're using in your course. And two, a lot of the publishers, if you have a textbook from one of our publishers that we have contracts with, I know a lot of those have videos. Okay, so Eric's saying if the video allows it, download it and put it up on Nocto. Yep. So that's another great point too that Eric was bringing, is that the video allows you to download it in wherever you're viewing it, that source, you can upload it into Panopto as well. The third point I want to make about pre-existing videos is that you want to make sure that they're closed captioned for accessibility reasons. We want our students who are hearing impaired, and it's to be able to enjoy the benefit of it as well. And it's just a good thing to do. It's just kind of students who have maybe English as a second language, or I know, like myself, and I'm at home in a busy environment and it's noisy, I kind of like to put the closed captions on the TV when I'm watching. It just is nice to have that. And if you, I find myself using closed captions a lot more than I used to. In the past, almost everything is closed caption now, and I turn on because I think I learn better. Actually, I read and then I watch at the same time, and I find that my comprehension level goes up. And I'll give you another little trick that I learned too that I enjoy, and that is I'm taking some classes here at USD, and what I like to do is download the transcript from YouTube. So if you have the closed captioning on the lecture video, your students can actually download the transcript. So while I take notes during the lecture, it's really nice for me because I'll just go in and I'll grab that text file from the transcript and I'll print it off and I'll make additional notes on that, and I'm following along as the instructor is going along in the notes, and then I can take notes in the margins and I can kind of follow along that way too. And I find that extremely effective for me to be able to learn the material, and then also I have that to go back and study for exams and to prepare for final projects. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, record a test video, go back and watch it, do some evaluations, see maybe what needs to do improvement. If you're not someone that's really comfortable in front of the camera, you don't have to show your face. I'm not showing, recording myself today. I'm actually in my office because we don't have the lab open today due to the campus closure. But if you don't feel comfortable in front of the camera, you can always just do like a image shot of yourself, kind of like a nice little picture on the cover slide for your presentation, and put your name and the title of the presentation. You don't have to turn the video on. If you feel that you need maybe like a guide to help you along in the flow of your lecture, I always like to also create a transcript. I put notes in the bottom of the PowerPoint, and I like to read off of that in order to stay focused and stay on point. I have a tendency to kind of go off the topic on occasion, and having a transcript of what you're going to be speaking about or lecturing on is a really great way to keep you on task and focused, especially when you're trying to stick to that 10 to 15 minute lecture. So having that is a real benefit, and you can also use that to upload into your course as a lecture notes to provide to your students as well, if you're able to do that. And obviously, practice makes perfect. I mean, you don't learn overnight to be the expert in creating lecture videos. I think it just takes practice, and also practicing with the technology. And so there's some things that I'm going to just talk about a little bit in terms of technology. But before we move on to that part of it, I got a question. Okay, do either or any of you have a question before we kind of move on? That was kind of like the pedagogical side of things, but I'm going to move on into the technology piece of it a little bit. I see Cheryl, you're typing a question. So while you're doing that, I'm just going to close out of here, and I'm going to jump into another screen here. Change my screen so you guys can see this. Okay. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to share with you, and this is, I should have opened it up in the PDF, but I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of it. I want to talk a little bit about the types of device that students use in order to view the videos. And so this was actually from an ECAR survey from 2018 regarding the types of IT technology and student opinions. So in this survey, they asked the students what was the most common type of device that they used when they were taking their course. And obviously, you'll see the numbers that say 12 and 18. Well, that 12 is year 2012 and 18 is 2018. So you can see the percentage of students of that device increasing over time. So obviously, laptop was the number one choice. So about 98% of the students were using their laptop to participate in with the course materials. But almost, if you look down there in the blue line, almost 58%, about 58% of the students were using a smartphone to connect to the content materials. So when you're, recording the videos, we want you to use a common format, and that being MP4, the most common format, the preferred format to use for that technology, so that students with mobile devices can view that lecture video. Other formats like the movie format, and I think there's maybe WMV, some of the Windows media formats, those don't play back necessarily on iOS devices. And then another point I want to bring up, which I was just discussing this morning, was that voiceover PowerPoints, while they work really well on a desktop device, they actually do not play back on iOS devices like Apple phones and iPads. So you want to kind of avoid that type of using that type of a lecture recording option. What you can do alternatively is to save that or export that PowerPoint, as an MP4, and then you can upload that to your course or upload that to YouTube, and then you get the benefit of having the PowerPoint with your voiceover that you can go back and edit, but then at the same time you have an MP4 video that the students can access through D12. Thank you, Eric, for sharing that. So he shared the link for us.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
So just a little bit of, I want you to kind of be thinking about that a majority of our students on campus, I would estimate to say probably 2/3, are at some point in the week connecting to D12 using their smartphone, which was one of the reasons why we rolled over to D12 Daylight. It was to make that interface a lot easier for our students. And I also think that may have had an impact on a lot of students who had difficulty connecting to D12 and now are having less difficulty. Recent survey data is showing that the amount of difficulty accessing D12 has actually dropped quite a bit, almost 50%. And I think that has a lot to do with students trying to access D12 using a mobile device of some sort. So designing your lectures around the idea that these are probably going to be viewed on a smartphone using a mobile device is important. So Cheryl shares a comment that I have a student tell me that they access course content information in D12 from their phone. Yes, so I would say with a lot of our students who even may be, and maybe they don't have access to a laptop, or maybe their smartphone is all they have as their main device, it's important that they are connected, in that phone is their main device for accessing content. We want to make sure that the content is accessible from their phone. And we can't limit that to say, okay, you're only limited to opening this up on a Windows machine, or you're only able to open this up on an Android device. That's not the expectation. The expectation is that video should be able to play back and that content should be accessible regardless of the device. So we want to make sure that we're using standard file types when we're posting our content up in D12. And Eric, oh, that's a very good point. Yep. Economically disadvantaged students primarily have internet only through their smartphone, and that's very true. We're also seeing an increase in the number of students who are using their cellular internet provider. Their cellular provider is their internet provider, so they're using their cell phone as a hotspot with their laptop. So their laptop's connecting through their cell phone, and they're connecting and doing some of their course content that way as well. So smaller chunked videos that we're able to stream across the internet is going to be a lot more user friendly for someone in that type of a situation too. I know I just recently saw that Verizon, you can buy unlimited data plans now on Verizon for like, I don't know, $50 a month. Well, why would you pay $50 a month for your cell phone internet and then $65 for home internet? You could just use one plan for both. So I think we're moving that direction where more and more students are going to be using their smartphones, and they're going to be using them also as a hub to connect all of their devices to that as well. I'm not going to address smartwatches and other types of those smaller devices because I'm not the expert on that. Eric is. I don't have I don't think you can watch video yet on smartwatches, but you can get email and stuff. But in the future, who knows? We might actually be able to do things like that and use those VR headsets and being able to watch videos that way. You know, in this virtual reality type setting. But I wanted to share a little bit about that because I think designing for multiple devices is really important. So that being said, I'm going to jump in the online faculty community real quick because I want to show you where the information for Zoom, because I know everybody's curious about Zoom. I get questions about it every day. So in the online faculty community course, if you scroll down under training, there is a new module I added called Zoom. We do not have our training tutorial up yet. I think they're working on it still, but I'm expecting it to be rolled out here fairly shortly. And Eric's typing something, so maybe he has an update on that because I haven't heard yet from our team when that was going to be uploaded. But there is the link here. Okay, so it's still a work in process. There is a link up here to the standalone version of Zoom, and all instructors have a pro account to Zoom. Students have basic accounts. There's also tutorials under the training for Panopto and Collaborate Ultra. So with that, Eric, I'd like to turn this over to you to talk about our transition from Collaborate Ultra to Zoom. So I will make you moderator. Okay. And I will stop sharing my screen. There you go. You can take it from here.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? I think my microphone's working, but I'm not sure if Angela can hear me. Can Cheryl Arley hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
I cannot hear you, Eric. Hold on a second. Cheryl and Arlie, can you hear? Eric's microphone is on, but I'm not hearing him. Hold on a second.
Yeah, and I was just talking, so I think, there we go.
Perfect. Now I'm
hearing myself. All right, perfect. So give me just a second here, just to kind of piggyback while I'm loading up the slides here, talking about smart technology. With respect to smartwatches and things like that. We've been watching that. Frankly, the popular devices like the Android smartwatches, which are really kind of following popularity, and the primary one is the Apple Watch. They're not terribly sophisticated with respect to that. There is a specific smartwatch that's made to help students cheat, but it's pretty obvious when students are using that. So nothing to be too concerned about. And if you do get concerned about that, especially in the online realm, that's when you're going to want to start looking at using a tool like Respondus Monitor, which it builds on top of the Lockdown browser, and we can talk about that as well. I've got some older slides about Zoom here, and Angela showed you the link. Angela, I was loading up my slides here. I'm not sure on the online faculty community. Did you have the standalone link to Zoom out there yet, or was it just the module?
I have the standalone version of Zoom link, the usb.zoom.us.
Yeah, and I'll type it out here just so everyone's got that. So Zoom is actually, we've had it for about a month now. we've been working on a new integration with Zoom in D2L. The old integration worked through the calendar tool, and not a lot of people actually use the calendar tool, and it was really kind of clunky. So they actually built an integration that works pretty much like what our current Collaborate version works. So basically, you have a meeting area that you can schedule the sessions and so forth, and then students have access. When they click on that, they can get to that as well. So that's coming down the road. We're just writing our documentation to it before we turn it on, so people don't get confused by it, because there are a number of settings that you'll want to tweak just so it works a little bit better in D2L. But we're still working on that. It is there though, but the standalone version works just fine too, because you can create kind of an ongoing meeting. You have your own vanity URL. So I think, I forget what mine is, but I've got it mapped to my own domain, so it's easy for me to remember. But it's a really easy to use link that you can just send to your students, say, hey, here's where we're going to jump into the Zoom session. And if we have time, we might even do that today, just so you guys can see it. It does require a software download, but it's pretty painless once we get into that. So Angela, we might take over the session and just jump into Zoom real quick just to see what that looks like. But anyway, so these are some older slides, but they do kind of give some of the synopsis of why we went with Zoom, some of the benefits of Zoom, and then kind of the direction we're moving into with Zoom in terms of the timeline here. So we've been actually using Blackboard Collaborate, the tool that we're using today, since about 2007, so over a decade now. And back then it was called Illuminate, and then it switched to Collaborate. Then Blackboard bought it, and now it's Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, and it's worked fairly well. One of the reasons we purchased this back in the day was that Illuminate especially worked very well in kind of our state, and Angela was talking about this a little bit with respect to how we access the internet. Back when we were doing Illuminate, I'd say probably at least half of our students were accessing our online courses with dial-up. And so we had to have a conferencing tool that worked over that. And all of the other ones, not only did they require a dedicated internet connection, they required a phone connection as well. And so in our rural setting, oftentimes the students only have one phone line, and if they're connected to that phone line through their internet, they're not really going to be able to call either. And that's before mostly everybody had smartphones or even cell phones at the time. So we had to have a system that worked like that in that environment, and Illuminate worked very well for us, and it's continued to work fairly well for us with some quirks and so forth. One of the main pushes into Collaborate Ultra was that it was entirely web-based. It got rid of Java. We had some security issues with Java and so forth. We lost some functionality though with that. And Blackboard, in part because they're pushing the envelope with what web browsers can do, have been a little bit behind with the functionality parity with their previous versions. So that's been a bit frustrating for some of us that were really digging deep into what Collaborate could do and not getting those features in Collaborate Ultra. They've slowly been adding those on there, but we felt it was a good time to start taking a look at other potential options. Was there a tool that perhaps had all those features in there or worked a little bit better? And so we put together a committee that was managed through our LMS management committee, and these are the same people that are responsible for the learning management system, D2L management. So integrations and management of that technology, so forth, and ultimately doing reviews of other LMS systems as well. And we really narrowed the focus down for that group to look at 3 tools: Blackboard Collaborate, obviously the tool we know and love, GoToMeeting, and Zoom. We very quickly eliminated GoToMeeting and ultimately went with Zoom. And so it seems like that was a long time ago when that got approved. That was back in May. We had to go through some contract negotiations and agreements and so forth. And part of this is we're still paying for a year of Blackboard Collaborate. So we had to figure out, well, how are we going to pay for a year of Zoom overlapping with Blackboard Collaborate? And so it took a while, but eventually we got access to Zoom, and that's where we're at today. So why did we choose Zoom? Well, on the whole, most of these web conferencing tools function very similarly in terms of what features they provide to the end user. However, there are some backdoor or back system considerations, if you will. Some of the integrations worked a little bit better. That's one of the reasons we got rid of GoToMeeting pretty quickly, because it didn't really integrate into an academic setting very well. Specifically, though, in terms of advantages that Zoom had over Blackboard Collaborate is that it allows up to 25 simultaneous video feeds. You have to have a pretty good internet connection to do that, but that's not something that Blackboard Collaborate could do very easily. One of the really nice things, and something that I know a number of instructors have been wanting, is that in Blackboard Collaborate, if I'm doing application sharing, so I can turn my video on right now, and I'll do that here. Maybe it takes a couple seconds to load there. It's kind of office here today. There we go. So I'm down in your corner now. You can see me there. If I switch to application sharing, suddenly I don't get that video anymore. So the students can't see me talking, can't see me waving. I'm not doing a whole lot now anyway, but the students can't see that, and some instructors really wanted that, and so that's something that Zoom can do. It has a much improved whiteboard tool in terms of drawing, annotating on the whiteboard, doing a bunch of other things on the whiteboard that Blackboard's been kind of slowly catching up to with their previous functionality, and they're not quite there yet. So that's something that'll be very useful for many. The really interesting thing, though, that I think really set Zoom apart wasn't even on Blackboard's roadmap, which is really strange because all the other tools that we were looking at are doing this, and that is that you have the option now to automatically transcribe your sessions at the conclusion. So when I record a Zoom session, it's going to automatically create a transcript. And it can, depending on the length of the section, that can take anywhere from 5 minutes to a couple hours to do. But the nice thing is that at the end of it, you have a transcript. It's not going to be sufficient for accessibility reasons, but it is editable. You can go in and make those changes. The nice thing about it, though, is, and one of the reasons they do this, is that it's indexable and searchable. So students can actually go in and search that transcript for keywords, and it will highlight in the lecture where those words were mentioned. So, for example, I teach jazz online. I'm actually going to be using Zoom tonight for the first time. I decided to do one exam through Blackboard Collaborate, get everybody on board with that, and then we can start experimenting once everybody's comfortable with the course. So we're going to be using Zoom tonight, and so I'm going to be talking about for example, the ragtime form tonight. And so students can go back and figure out, well, what was the ragtime form? I forget. Well, rather than looking on the slide deck and trying to figure out what number it was and then going through the recordings like, well, he probably started talking about that a half hour into the lecture and then kind of scrubbing backwards and forward trying to find that exact point where I mentioned it in the search field, and it will jump right to that point in the lecture and highlight every other point I mentioned that in the lecture as well, which is going to be a really powerful study tool. Because what I find in my course is that not many students participate in the live session, which is fine because I don't want to require that because it's meant to be an asynchronous course. But they use the recording a lot, especially leading up to the exam. It's a nice way to go back and refresh on things. And so that is going to be a really powerful a study tool, I think, because no longer is there going to be this guesswork about figuring out, okay, where did he mention this in the lecture? Now they're going to be able to just type that search term in there and be able to find that in the lecture. So that's going to be really, really great as well. There is a HIPAA compliant version of Zoom. I don't know if anybody's in the health sciences area here, but so that could be interesting as well. It's a standalone version of Zoom. It's got some of the features built, obviously, because it needs to be HIPAA compliant. But that's not something that Blackboard Collaborate offered. And so that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting for our School of Medicine, nursing school, even our counseling school, our counseling programs and things like that could really find use with that. So that'll be something that we look at as well. This probably doesn't mean, oh, Cheryl, yeah, of course, Cheryl teaches in the nursing. I don't know if you ever get kind of any HIPAA issues into the courses that you're teaching, but there is a standalone version of Zoom that works with HIPAA. It's HIPAA compliant. We have to do some setup to get that working. We have to send I forget what the name of the agreement is, but we have a specific agreement that we have to sign so that we can be compliant with them. Yeah. So we have a specific agreement that we'd have to sign with Zoom to get that done. That has to happen at the institutional level. This is a region system, so we haven't done that work yet. But we can set that up and get that rolling if there is interest in that as well. Probably not something that's too terribly interesting to you guys on the session today, but something that is really interesting to us is that Zoom offers what we call H323 integration, which means that we can actually connect Zoom sessions to our existing DDN network. I don't know if either of you have taught through DDN or you've used DDN or so forth. It's our dedicated video conferencing tool. So it's a hardware tool that has rooms that are set up for this video conferencing. And frankly, DDN is rather underutilized today, and Collaborate had a lot to do with that. And so obviously that's a huge investment that we make into that. So any time that we can dual purpose that technology can really be a benefit economically for us. And so we're going to be able to actually use those DDN rooms to have endpoint Zoom sessions as well, which will be really interesting. So you could have students that join the web conference Zoom. You could have students that join on the app through their phone in Zoom. You can have students that are in a dedicated DDN room participating in Zoom. All of these can be connected together very easily, and it's really slick. So I mentioned the app version. I didn't mention that kind of the advantages here, but I had an unfortunate incident where our dog got into a bag of Raisinets, and so my wife had to go to a dentist appointment, so she brought her into the ER, the vet ER rather, and left her there, and I came in and took over, and so I had some time to spend in the room while they were getting her meds ready, and so I had time and we just got in Zoom, so I pulled it up on my phone and was playing around with it, and it was really slick. I could pull in Google Slides without any problem. I connected to my Google account. I was able to talk on it. I was able to draw on the whiteboard. Those are things you can't do in Collaborate Ultra right now. So the question from Cheryl is, so are you saying Zoom can be used simultaneously with DDN? Yes, if we purchase an H323 connector, which I think the quote that they gave us was at the most $500, and so you have one of those per room. We can connect to a DDN session, so we can do a DDN. We can do, it's not necessarily using the same network that DDN uses, but basically it's using Zoom to connect to that DDN room. And then we can have students on remotely through their web browsers. We can have students on their phones all over the world and connecting that way. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a really great way to utilize a resource that I think is rather underutilized at the point. And it's a technology that obviously the DDN rooms, I had my webcam on. My cameras are pretty nice for a web camera. It's 1080p, but obviously we have some really nice hardware equipment and so forth in those rooms. And so being able to take advantage of that, being able to have a session where we don't have to pass around the microphone and things like that. They're already wired for sound. That's going to be great use as well. Can I use this guest speakers to join us? There is a guest speaker option when you create the session. And in any session, you could just give them the join link, and then you can make them because the join link, so like I'll just show my join link here and I'll type it in. We can jump into a session here in a little bit. I'll tell you when to do that. I created my own, vanity URL, so I have my own domain. So that's just really easy for me to memorize. So whenever someone wants to join in a session, like, hey, let's just jump into Zoom quick. And so there we go. I had the same thing for Collaborate. So if you actually go to collaborate.monster.org, it'll jump into my Collaborate session as well. It just makes it really easy to share. But it's really easy just to jump into meetings there. That's a public access. So you're going to click on there and log in and provide your name. Anybody can get access to that. They don't have to be a university. And so once they join the session, though, if I want them to drive, I can just make them a moderator, just like I can in Collaborate Ultra right now. And so they can be a guest participant, guest speaker. They could be a guest moderator if we want to as well. So it's really slick and easy to use. So that's not something that I'd say Zoom has a distinctive advantage on. I think Collaborate Ultra can do that as well, but that's just one of the things that we can do. This one's more near and dear to me than probably going to be useful for you. I teach jazz history online, so we do a lot of listening in my lectures. And so right now, I could take my webcam here and just kind of show you what I'm talking on here. You probably even saw my microphone here. So I can't even see this. So I've got my microphone here, and I've got my piano keyboard here, and over there is my soundboard. So I have a really nice setup. It sounds really great, but it takes a lot to get done because I have to pipe my computer's audio in through the microphone and then send that out to Zoom so I can hear that. So I can like play my piano. I don't even have my piano on right now, but it allows me to do things like play my piano, and it's not even gonna work right now, and do all kinds of things like that, which is great. Zoom actually doesn't even require that hardware. It can pipe the audio that's coming on your computer into the Zoom session. So more practically for you guys, say you want to pull up a YouTube video in a session. If I were to pull up a YouTube video session in Collaborate Ultra right now, if I were on a regular computer, you wouldn't hear the audio. And so that's kind of frustrating. But in Zoom, you will. So less audio setup, it's going to be very functionally easy to use. So we think it has a lot of advantages. It's also, if you listen to NPR, or if you listen to, any kind of, news service and so forth, Zoom is pretty well dominating the market right now. So everyone has Zoom. So that's kind of another advantage, is if your students have participated in any sort of webinar before or web session, they've likely already used Zoom. So it's not going to be very hard for them to do. On top of all that, it was $25,000 less annually. So that's a pretty easy build as well. That's the problem when dealing with Blackboard, is they're kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the market. So they're not really willing to negotiate. So in fact, it just goes to show how big of a company they are. Their salesperson reached out to me about a week ago, say, hey, I'm coming to South Dakota. I'd like to come sit down with you and talk to you about Collaborate Ultra. I'm like, well, we were Collaborate Ultra customers, but now we're switching to Zoom. So because you're such a big organization that we kind of got lost in the mix. So that's that. What else do I have here? I do have a demo link here. I'll send out the session here as well. But you guys all have access to Zoom now. Zoom has a wealth of resources on their website as well. So Angela, one of the things we might be able to do in that Zoom module that we have set up in the online faculty community is throw in some of those open resources that Zoom has, just as to get people started and get people use that. It doesn't take a whole lot to use. It's just a matter of, if you're used to using Collaborate Ultra, okay, where do I do these things now in Zoom? So it doesn't take too long to get used to. And I will, if we're done here, and I'll let Angela drive this and determine this, but we can jump into a Zoom session really quick too, and just so you guys can see it. And it's going to be the worst case scenario for you. If you've not used Zoom before, it'll take you through the process of downloading the software, installing it, and getting into the session, and you can kind of see what that looks like. Implementation plan, we're actually well advanced beyond this, so I'm not going to talk about too much here, but we would hope to do a pilot during the 2018 fall session, but we didn't really get around to it. So really this is kind of a trial by fire, if you will, for this semester, because the reality is that our Collaborate Ultra contract is done by the end of June here, so 6/30/2019. So we need to make sure that we're completely off of Collaborate Ultra by that point. Just judging by how many people have been hounding us for Zoom links, I don't think that's going to be necessarily a problem, but we'll be working with those faculty as well. I'm trying to get IT to get a message out there. Sometimes IT could be really slow in responding to emails, so which is really ironic. But nevertheless, I'm working with them to send some communication out, because the other thing that we'll have to worry about too is that if you have sessions in Collaborate that you've recorded over the years and you want to keep those, we're going to have to remove those from Collaborate servers. Well, technically they're Amazon servers, but we're going to have to remove them from Collaborate and download them locally. Fortunately, we can put them into Panopto pretty easily, so you can have continued access to them. I'm going to guess, though, that it's just going to be easier to record a lot of those in Zoom, just because the audio and the video quality probably will be a little bit better. Most of the people that rely upon those old recordings are using the old version of Cloud, which is even worse audio and video. So that's going to be a process that we work through. And like I said, I'm working with IT to get some messaging out on that. And we're working with our documentation as well to write a really quick tutorial about kind of that migration plan. How would you take a recording off of Collaborate Ultra and move it into Panopto so that you can have it for future courses? So I see Arlie's typing in a question here. Yeah, so yeah, we'll definitely have a short tutorial on that. It's really not that hard. You just basically, the hardest part is dealing with Panopto. Panopto's not the most easiest tool to use, but it's really pretty simple to get those videos, download them, and then just drop them into Panopto. And then it's really kind of the share side from Panopto and getting used to doing that. But you could also, might be even just easier to throw them up onto YouTube if you want to do it that way as well. We tend to push Panopto, not because it's the easiest or best solution, but just because it's local. Then you're not reliant upon YouTube. If YouTube decides that they want to, pull something because of copyright or things like that, then we don't have to deal with that when we have those things locally as well. So, any other questions or comments? Is there any interest in jumping into a Zoom session? We can do that. I don't know if Angela has other stuff planned. I don't want to.
No, actually, Eric, if you could just maybe walk through the first couple of steps of getting into it. Can you share your screen and show us? Because I've got a couple of instructors that are interested in that.
Sure. So I'm just going to click on, let me switch to app sharing actually here.
Sure.
And give me a second to do that. I'll share my Chrome over here. So I'll take it from the start to finish just so that you know what it looks like. So what you want to do is just go to usd.zoom.us. It's hard to type when people are watching even virtually here. And then what you want to do is you want to click on this sign in option here. And this is going to work with your USD credentials. So you're just going to log in, and you'll see it actually comes in with a USD branded page here. I'm actually already signed in here. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I'll be able to sign out with SAML here. I'll try it. Here, actually, let me app share with. I'm going to share Safari here. And I'll get it shared here just a second. I'm logging in, make sure I haven't logged in previously here either. All right, so that's looking better. So let me share Safari here. The only reason I'm running into problems is because I've already signed in, so I want to take you guys through what it looks like through the login process here as well. So we'll stop this and we'll share Safari here. So one of the other nice things too about Zoom, it's a lot easier to switch between sharing. So I'm looking forward to that. In my course, when I'm doing this, I have interactive listing examples we do, and then I have my PowerPoints or my Google Slides on the whiteboard, and so I have to take about a 30-second transition between each one. So I won't have to worry too much about that with Zoom. So this is what it looks like. You click on that link in. I've already signed in at some point with this. I can just use another account. And so this is basically what you'll be greeted with. You sign in with your USD credentials. So monster.usd.edu. And then it'll get you to USD's page and you'll log in with your USD password. And I'll just stay signed in because that makes it easier. And so that's going to bring me to this page here. And if you go to the profile, so up in the corner here, you can see what your vanity URL is. So this is what mine is. So it's usd.zoom.us/my, and then you can customize this. So I just put my last name there. You have a much uglier version here. You can share that with people as well, but I personally just use that personal link. It's a lot easier to share with people as well. It will show that you have a pro account. So by default, all USD faculty and staff members have a pro account. Students have a basic account. And really the only difference is, obviously the pro account has more features. In terms of the basic account that students have, they have up to 3 participants with no limitations. As soon as a 4th participant joins, they're limited to 40-minute session. And they can't do all of the cool recording features. They can't record to the cloud. They can't do the transcripts. They can't do some of the breakout things and some of the more advanced features. So for just a couple students getting together and wanting to kind of collaborate, it's going to work great. If you have students that want to do more sophisticated things, there are a couple different options. One, you can just give them access to your session, and then as you come in, and that assumes that you're going to be there, you can make them a presenter, and then they can do their presentation. Or we can request that the student gets a pro account as well. That does take some additional steps to do. I think in most cases the basic account is going to work for most students, but again, we can change that as well. And that's really all you need to do from there. You can set up your meetings. These are kind of the meeting general sessions, so you can kind of set some preset defaults for all of your meetings as well. So one I would recommend that you do, I don't know if it's in here, I think it's under the recording. I was talking about the transcripts. That is in here. That's an option that's not enabled by default. And so you want to click on that. Obviously, we're going to have documentation on how to do all of this as well. There might be some features that you prefer in here that are not set, so you can do that. I don't know why, but you could add a timestamp to the recording if you wanted to, do different things here in terms of how it's managed. And then your meetings, you can schedule separate meetings. So you always have your kind of your own personal meeting room. But you can set up one-off meetings as well. So maybe you want to have a separate recording or separate management for another meeting or so forth, set them up for courses and so forth, all of those things as well. I think most people are just going to use their personal meeting. That's what I plan on doing. If you do your personal meeting, your recordings will go up in here. You'll get an email when the recordings are available as well. So you don't have to come back here and check, oh, is my recording available? You'll get an email confirmation when that's done. You can click on that and access it directly, or you can come in here and manage them as well. This is where you can also download them very easily as well. So that's it. We also have a webinars feature, but we don't have this enabled because we have a limited number of webinar accounts. And primarily what we use in terms of teaching is more of a meeting than it is a webinar. If you're interested in doing webinars, webinars are very limited in functionality where the participants can only go in the chat and only post questions there. They can't use microphones. They can't collaborate in any other way. So it's just not something we see a lot of use of. It's probably going to be more for, for example, the President's State of the University address. We might throw that up in a webinar because they support up to 10,000 attendees. We have a limited number of those that we can use, so that's why it's not enabled. That's why you don't see it here. But primarily, we're going to be doing it with meetings here. So any questions about that? We can kind of close out of this session and then kind of jump into a Zoom. If you look at that link I posted in the chat, just a couple items up. If you click on that zoom.monster.org, it should take you to my session. I can pop in there too if you want to do that. Should we try that, Angela?
Yeah, I'm going to go into that now. So.
Yeah, I don't know what it will do if you have 2 conferencing sessions open with microphones and things like that, but I'm going to go ahead and close out the CTL one here, and then we can kind of pop into Zoom. And if after 5 minutes I don't see anybody in there, we can pop back into the CTL one. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out from this one, and then I will hopefully see you guys in Zoom. So it's just zoom.mylastnamemonster.org if you want to join that way, and click on that link, and that should get you started. So hopefully I'll see everybody in a few seconds here.
Okay. Then I'm going to share my screen actually so you can see what I'm doing. See if this works.
And I'm still in, Cheryl. So are you making sure that you're signing in with your full, so you have to sign in with your first name. So it'd be like, cheryl.fischbach@usd.edu. Is that what you're typing in? Or what kind of error message are you receiving?
Mine says, please wait for host to start this meeting.
Yeah, and so once I join, then that's what
Okay.
you'll be brought into the room, and you can control that too. So I can set it so that everyone just jumps in right away, or you have to wait for me to get into the meeting.
Okay.
So, and that's how that kind of how that works here. So, all right, so I'm going to jump in here and see what happens. See if there's a fit about my audio here.
Okay, Cheryl, looks like you're having some trouble getting that page. Are you going to the zoom.monster.org? So I clicked on it and I was able.
No, I used the link from the online D12. When you click on that, I get to the Zoom video conferencing, and you can choose then to sign in. And when I click that, that's when I get the message.
Okay. Try
Yeah, for our purposes, Cheryl, just go to that zoom.monster.org because that will bring you to my session and we can do the demo, and then we can kind of troubleshoot your sign-in issues once we get to that point.
Can you say the link again?
So it's Zoom, ZOOM dot Mosterd, which is my last name, MOSTERD .org.
Okay.
It says still. Are you logging in now, Eric?
Yeah, I had to install it here. I haven't done a
back
Zoom
here.
session from here, so I'm getting logged in now, so it should join us.
Okay, perfect. So to host the meeting, Eric, you have to download that plugin.
Yeah, and to participate too, I think you do.
Okay. All right.
But again, so many people have used it so that it,
Right.
it's already
There we go.
installed.
Now mine says.
Yep. So I'm gonna
Join.
mute me on you.
I'm gonna see. Hold on a second. One second.
Share specific application. And now I should be back in Collaborate, hopefully.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Eric. So I couldn't get the audio to work on my end. It was, for some reason, I was getting double feedback.
Yeah,
like,
probably because you had Collaborate on and Zoom on, so it was getting confused who should get the audio.
Yeah, so I had to play around with that. But anyway, well, my hope today for this presentation is just to kind of give you an overview of how we can use the videos and a little bit how we can use video lectures a little bit more effectively for student engagement, and then also to give you a snapshot of Zoom. And if either one of you or anyone watching the video has any questions about it, you certainly can go to the online faculty community. I'm going to be uploading the tutorials that Eric was mentioning temporarily to get some stuff up there for those who are interested in using it. And of course, if you have any questions, you can certainly contact the CTL. You can email us or call us, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. And I appreciate both of you joining us today. And for those who are watching online, thank you so much.